and today I'm going to be walking you through how to connect Supabase Authentication with Toddle, or now called Nordcraft. So this will be a beginner's friendly tutorial, but I will assume that you already have your Toddle project created, you're already familiar with Toddle, and that you have your Supabase project ready. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be showing you how I like to do authentication when it comes to Toddle or Nordcraft, and that is by using the email one-time password and the magic link. You're going to see what I mean there later, but to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to do a few things first in Supabase. So first, like I said, I want to do email one-time password. So what that is that's when you put in your email, it sends a code to your email address, and then you copy that code and you verify it basically. So over here in authentication, and if we come to, I believe it was, one second here, email, sorry. What we want to do is instead of this confirmation URL, I actually want to use the one-time password like token. So I'm just going to erase these, and I'm just going to say that your token is gonna, oh, that's the wrong thing. It's going to be token, just like that. And then I'll save that for sign up. You can change anything here if you want to later. I'm not going to be doing that for this video, but then I'm going to come over here to magic link, and I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to say token and close that. There we go. And just like that. So the reason we do both confirm sign up and magic link is because confirm sign up is going to be only the first time the user signs up, and then it'll be a magic link every other time, basically. So now that we got that done in Supabase, I now want to add Supabase as a service in Nordcraft. Now, what that does is it basically allows Nordcraft to know what is in our Supabase project. Like, say we have a users table, what fields do we have in there? Like, do we have first name, last name, date of birth, things of that nature? So to add Supabase as a service in Nordcraft, we're going to come over here to Nordcraft, and we're going to go to services, click the plus, Supabase like that. We'll come over to Supabase, go to our project settings and data API, copy the URL right there, paste that, and we will copy our public key and paste that. And you'll see that they'll say connection established if you got it correct. If not, just make sure you have the correct URL and the public key, and then you can click or press on check connection right here just to test it again. All right, we'll press the check mark for that. Now, for this, we're going to need three things. We're going to need a login/register form. The reason I say that is because you could use the same form for both, because all we're doing is entering their email, basically. And after that, we're going to need a component to verify. It's going to be the exact same as the login. It's just going to be used for a different API. And then lastly, a button, which we will just then set up to run like the logout API, basically. So these are the three components you're going to need. Again, I'm going to assume that you already are familiar with Nordcraft and you've already built these things. We won't be going over that in this video. So with those three components already ready, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the API documentation over here in Supabase by coming over to API docs, and we'll click on user management and change this from JavaScript to Bash so that it just shows you the the endpoints and what they require to be used. Okay, so for this video, we're going to be doing the login via SMS OTP. And I know it says SMS, and I don't know why it doesn't say it in the documentation, but you can also use this for email. So that's what we're going to do with the login slash register form. And we're going to be using this verify one in the verify OTP component. So these are going to be the two that we use for sign in and login, basically. All right. So now back over in Nordcraft, and we're here in our login slash register component. I'm going to add an API, and you're going to see that since we added Supabase as a service earlier, here it'll show us like what options we have for Supabase. Now this project is empty, so I don't have any endpoints, but we're going to go ahead and click on just this basic one. Now I'm going to turn off auto fetch, and I want you to be aware of one thing is that Nordcraft does not automatically bring in Supabase's authentication endpoints. So you have to make sure that when you're doing something like authentication, this right here should not say REST. It should say auth like it does here in the API docs. So just keep note of that one thing. So to do this slash OTP, I'm going to change this to auth, and I'm going to add the path of OTP, right? Now we're going to see also with that, we need to pass, well, here it says phone, but it can also be email. So we're going to make sure that it is a post request. So we're going to make sure it is post. We'll go to the body, and we're just going to create this object really quick that will have email in it. Email. And I'm just going to connect that to my form.email. Again, I'm assuming you already have your form connected. And I'm just going to name this SB for Supabase, and this is send OTP. All right. So now that we got that, what I'm going to do as well before we actually test this is I'm going to come over to our verify OTP component, and I'm going to, oh, sorry, that shouldn't be there. And I'm going to add a API, again, the same way. We're just going to make sure, I'm going to turn off auto fetch. We're going to make sure that this says auth instead of REST, and in the docs to verify a OTP token, we need to pass in a type, a phone, and a token. Again, it doesn't say it, but the type can be email and phone could be email. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm just going to name it verify token. So it'll be a post request, and then in the body, we're going to create a object. Type is going to be email. And then we have to add the actual email. Now you're going to have to pass this in however you see fit. Again, I will be using my component library here that I created that was based off of Spark Core. So if you want this, you can use the link in the description to make your own clone of it, basically. All right. And then lastly, we're going to add the form.token here. So let me just recap really quickly. We have two components. We have one for login, and we have one for verifying the one-time password. I do this way so that I know that whenever something breaks, like say users can't sign in, like it's not sending the email, I know it's going to be part of the login component only, and it wouldn't be part of the like this verify OTP component, basically separating or isolating concerns, essentially. So for this verify token, let me just make sure. All right. And then, yeah, so in login, we just did auth v1 OTP, which is going to send. the OTP, and then for verify, we did auth v1 / verify. Yep, and it's a post request, and that's what we're going to use to verify the token. Now, let's go ahead and give that a try. We're going to go over to form auth login, which will also be your register one, and I'm going to press T to test my application, and I will type in my email address. So once I have that in there, I'm going to exit testing the application, and I'm going to manually run the API, so just so I can see what it returns. Okay. So we're going to test the API. You're to see we get no error, and it's going to be a 200. So if you get nothing back, that is actually correct. That's what you want here. That just means that Supabase sent the one-time password to the email. So if I just refresh my Gmail there, you'll see we have confirm your sign up. And in here is that token that we added to our email, if you don't remember, back in authentication and emails. For sign up, we just had to send the token, as well as for the magic link, we just had to send the token. So that's what this email is. It is that first confirm sign up, as you can read from the title. So now that we got this token, I can then go to the verify one-time password, one-time password. And I'm just using an attribute here with my email as a test value, so I don't have to enter it every single time. We're going to test this. We're going to paste that one-time password, and we're going to come over here and manually run the API. And you're going to see that this gives us back the access token. Now, this access token is actually what we need to save to the session via Nordcraft to authenticate the user. So to save this auth token to the session, we're going to come over here to events. We're going to say on success, click this plus, and we want to set session cookies. And you're going to see it's going to ask for a access token as well as the expires in number, the amount of time. So we don't have to set expires in. All we have to do is just open the formula and just say that we're going to set this to event detail and access token. And you're going to see that it is that same access token that was right here, right? Now, this is the part where it's going to change based on your application. But what you essentially would do here is you would come to success and you would say on success, we want to send them to the URL. Say, for example, it is /dashboard, right? That is essentially what you would do here. I'm not going to have a dashboard page, so I'm not going to actually keep that. We're just going to get rid of that actually. All right. So now this will save the token to the session, and that will mean that this person is now authenticated. Now we can check for that. We're about to do that next, and then we will lastly do the sign out. So to now check if there is a user, typically what I would do is I would add it to my app provider as an API. So that's running on every page. I want to check if there's a user. But to keep this simple, I'm just going to do it on the home page here. And we will give this a background just so we can see it. Okay. So we're going to add another API here. And again, we're just going to select this default here because we're not actually using the REST endpoint. And just for testing purposes, you would actually want auto fetch to be on. But since we're just testing this, I'm not going to have auto fetch on. But I am going to name this Supabase get user. And we're going to change this again, since this is auth related. We're going to change REST to auth. And then over here in Supabase, we're going to check quickly what that endpoint is. this one, sorry, to get user. So to check if we have a user, the path is auth v1 user. So auth v1, we're going to add user right here. We're just going to make sure that this matches the URL where that is right here. And we're going to see that we have to pass the user's access token here. So we want to make sure that in headers, we then come here and say authentication, sorry, authorization. And once you add authorization, it's going to default to sending that access token that we set earlier. Okay. So now we'll actually see that if I run this, it's not going to work because I didn't actually set my one-time, my token from my one-time component here because we had added it after I ran it. So we're going to need to sign in one more time, and you're going to see that there's something differently here with the email. So back at the login component, again, I'm just going to test it, put in my email, and I'm going to manually trigger this API, and we're just going to get the 200. There's going to be no data. There's going to be no error. But in our email now, you're going to see that we have a different email, and this is your magic link email. So this is what I was saying earlier, is that we have to change both the confirm your sign up email and the magic link email, because after the first sign up is going to be your magic link email, right? So we're going to follow the same process though. We're going to copy this, then we're going to come over to our auth, or so to our verify OTP component, and I'm going to test it, put in that token, and manually run the API request. And you're going to see here, again, I get the access token, but now this is actually set this time because we already have the on success to set it to the session cookies. We can check this if you have the Toddle Chrome extension. I'm just going to refresh real quick. We can check this by, if you have that extension, you can come to cookies. And oh, I thought I had it here. Sorry, this is awkward. 1 second. I just installed Chrome for this tutorial. So let's redo that. And I will go through this process one more time. I apologize about that. Do that. Manually run. Go to our email. Come to our verify OTP component and manually run again. And there we go. Now it should tell us that we have the access token in the cookies. There we go. So now on our home page, essentially, like I said, what you would do is you would have this on auto fetch and say, basically, if there's an error, you want to send them back to the login page or just leave them doing what they're doing, basically. So we'll see here that now this is going to automatically check on the server every single time I refresh if I'm authenticated. So you'll see if I refresh, I mean do that twice, but it's going to fetch automatically to check if I have the access token. Okay, so now that's how you know if the user is authenticated. Now, what I want to do lastly is that logout button. So all I'm going to do for that is I'm going to create a button. I'm just going to use this component for the case of this tutorial, but you would essentially create a button so that you can put this in multiple places instead of having to continuously create logout buttons. And what we want to do is we want to go to APIs. We want to, again, just click on the default one there, make sure that this is set to auth, and we want this log out endpoint right here. Now you're going to see this has to be a post request to the endpoint /logout, and it's going to require our user's access token. So auth v1 /logout, and it's going to be a post request. I'm going to name it SB logout. And then for the header, like it says, it needs that authorization header. And again, if we add that, it'll manually add the access token. So what we're going to do now is essentially on success of this is we want to do two things. What I like to do typically is I will set session cookies and I would just set access to null like that. And then I would also then after the success of that is go to say like /login. Again, I don't have one, so I'm not going to create one for this project, but that's essentially what you would put there. Okay, now we have the API request connected because I was going to manually run it. And yeah, there we go. All right, so we'll try that. I'll also just manually run it just in case. And yes, this session not found. So then now if I go back to the home page and I go to get user, you're going to see that it can't find the session. So this means we have an error. This user is not authenticated. And that's basically how you add Supabase authentication to Nordcraft.